How important is flow? And talk about flow in your playing.
It's tantamount to me. And I think that I have this mantra, thought is the enemy of flow. And,
love that.
And I think that really, you really can't be fully present in the moment, especially in an improvisatory sense.
Yes.
If you're thinking even for a second, a nanosecond, it just isn't going to happen. So you're shooting yourself in the foot. And so when you overcome that and you don't succumb to that sort of, I'm going to think now, and you're just in flow, everything takes care of itself, and as it should be. And in a sense then, there really aren't any mistakes.
Right.
There are just events and creative moments whereby you're striving, not even striving, you're just creating. And things just happen. And then if the thing that happens is something that is a bit funky, you just keep moving. You don't stop. You don't even think about it.
Right.
And so I think that there is a tendency, and I'm not saying this is the only tendency that exists, but there can be a tendency to have this, I better not make a mistake. And when I put my stuff out there, it's going to be so on that nobody can criticize me. You know what I mean? And then there's a whole other legion of performers who embrace the flow and it really doesn't matter. And that's great. But I'm just saying that if you're of the former persuasion, then it's just, I don't see where the real creativity is evidencing itself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'd like to take a second to talk to you about this channel. This is actually Rick Beato 2. I've had it since the beginning of my main channel, and many of you are not subscribed. As a matter of fact, 87% of the people that watch this channel regularly are not subscribed. So I would encourage you to hit the subscribe button on this channel and on my main channel. This will help me get better guests and help continue to grow both of these channels. Thank you. How do you bring new ideas to your playing? Even historically, when you were first starting out, I was thinking about this interview that Mike Brecker did a long time ago. He said that his playing would always be, ideas he worked on would always be 2 months behind. He'd work on something, but it would never come out in his playing until about 2 months later or 3 months later.
You know what? I spoke about that today as well, where sometimes, let's say if you practice and you just let things happen, things will reveal themselves to you. And then you might go, okay, well, let me work on this for a while. And sometimes what I end up doing, which I'm not sure if this is good or bad, perhaps I should work on things more, but I'll find myself doing things and I'll repeat them to the point where I feel fairly comfortable with them, and then I'll just leave them alone. Mm-hmm. I won't bother to write them down or anything. Yeah. Hoping that they will then somehow, coalesce.
Through your subconscious.
Exactly. So now, when I go out there, I'm not even thinking about that cool thing. I'm just hoping that it's just going to somehow operate in the background processing. Yeah. And that it will just emanate. Yeah. If it so needs to. And the other way for me that new things seem to happen is when I listen. When I listen and I'm getting fed, because people say that, they'll go, well, it's creative and, this, that, and the other thing. And I'll say, well, look at who I'm on the stage with. Some of the greatest improvisers in the world, and they're feeding me. They're spoon feeding me. I'm just there to take it. And then I'm just dialoguing with them. Yeah. Trying to be fearless about it. Yeah. Because if I stop to think, oh my God, I'm up here having a dialogue, having discourse with this person and that person. If I stop to think about it, I might freeze, and there goes my flow. Yeah. One time, when I first started playing live with Herbie Hancock, I remember in the first year, we were on a gig, and I'm such a fan of Herbie's, right? Yeah. who, I mean, genius, right?
Yeah.
I mean, gigantic. Yeah. So I would have these giggle fits. And so one time we were playing and I started giggling and he's playing a solo and I got into a giggle fit and he played something that killed me so hard that I stopped playing for about 4 bars.
Okay.
And then I suddenly realized, I was supposed to be playing. And so I started playing again and I froze and I was giggling. The funniest thing is he didn't sing anything. After the gig, nothing. I had to tell him because he's so open that he thought that was my statement.
Yeah.
Like I'm laying out for 4 bars.
Yeah.
What he didn't realize is that he just knocked me on my tail and I was having a giggle fit. You know? So
when you listen to something, would you recognize anything that you played? If somebody played you something, would you say, oh, that's me? If it was from 20 years ago, if it was 10 years ago, do you instantly recognize yourself?
Usually I can't. However, I've been such a chameleon that there have been some records that I played on that were so processed.
Yeah.
And I chameleonized myself so well that I didn't know it was me. I will say this, though, that 30 years ago and beyond, I found it easier not only to recognize myself, but to recognize almost anybody. Mm-hmm. And I think that for some reason, and I haven't quite put my finger on it, on the reason why, or to try or analyze it or figured it out, but I would be able to listen to, 10 different guys just playing the simplest thing. And I'd go, it's Keltner, that's Jeff, it's Gad, within a bar, playing the same thing. And I'd know who it was and figure that one out. When you're talking about that stark, with that amount of space between notes, playing that pattern, which pretty basic, right?
Yeah.
On these cold idiophones, and then I can discern identity through that. That's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is when you think of it. So, yeah, I mean, but for the most part, I can tell, and I know I've been cloned, and I'm not the only one that's been cloned, but I can usually tell. There's little markers, and because I'm not second guessing me. And even though I may not be able to predict every little thing I play, I know who I am. And so I can usually recognize it.
When you brought up the Holdsworth record, Secrets, today, I was just listening to that this past week. And it wasn't like I was saying, oh, I'm going to run into Vinnie, I'm going to listen to this.
Yeah.
I just put that on.
Just happened.
And as soon as it came on the first track, I said, oh, that's right, Vinnie plays on this.
Right.
Instantly, 1 bar in, I know what you're playing.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
And Alan on that first track plays. I mean,
it's insane.
It's insane.
His feet, when he first appears, he's just
literally right on the first track. His opening, ideas are
it's
just
like a comet.
Yes.
Yeah, it's insane. I know. It's when I first heard the record, the mix of it, and I heard that. I mean, it was like another one of those giggle fit moments.
Yeah,
because that's what he. Yeah, absolutely. Great piece of work.
What is something that you'll listen to even to this day that you'll just be, wow, unbelievable?
Nefertiti. That's to me it's almost like Buck Stops Here kind of record. Mm-hmm. Nefertiti. When I was going to school in Boston, I fell asleep to that record every night in my dorm room. Every night. Wore the grooves out.
And if you put it on right now, you get that same feeling, right? Exactly like you're transported back to then.
Absolutely. It's just timeless inspiration. It's just one of the greatest records of all time. Desert Island record.
What's another one like that?
Oh, that's a tough one. Probably the White Album.
Love it.
Yeah.
Talk about Ringo for a minute, Vinny.
His identity, and it was like what he played was so well tailored to the compositions that they were like part of the song.
Right.
And not only that, but the identity that he brought to it was not only his own identity, but it kind of became the identity of the music in the same way that the whole production did. All those production values to me, on top of just the genius writing, is just, to me, makes it like the Beatles and everything else. I hate to say that, but it's it's just like I said, the buck stops here at Nefertiti. It's like the Beatles.